Welcome to the You Can Make a Living in the Music Industry podcast from Nashville, Tennessee. I am your host, John Martin Keith. Celebrities, working class musicians, and people who work behind the scenes in all areas of the music industry will share their stories, encourage you, and give practical advice of ways you can make a living doing what you love in the music industry. This episode is brought to you by Edenbrook Productions. Edenbrook Productions is the company I founded to help musicians grow in their craft. Are you a songwriter, but maybe you've been told your songs aren't quite there yet? Or are your songs ready, but you don't feel stage ready? Or maybe music is your passion, but you feel imprisoned by your day job and you don't know what to do next to make your dream a reality? Well, Edenbrook Productions is here to help. We offer consulting services via phone call, Skype, and FaceTime. And for the You Can Make a Living in the Music Industry podcast listeners, we're offering an introductory 1-hour consultation special. Click on the link in the show notes to contact me, and let's get you making a living in the music industry. Hey guys, welcome to the show today. I'm excited to introduce you to my friend Wesley Cole. Wes is an independent artist and producer from Simi Valley, California originally. Currently, Wes works at Brewhouse Music, which is a custom sync licensing company in the LA area. And so one of the cool things about what Wes does with Brewhouse is he takes artists and songs and finds a place for them to fit in the TV/film/commercial world. So the reason I know Wes is because I'm an artist that writes for his company. And so he's pitching my music to get them placed onto different TV shows and commercials and things like that. And so I'm excited for you to hear his story and to learn about the ins and outs of what it takes to become an artist, songwriter that's working in the TV and film world, if that's what you're looking to do. So now he's done other things as well outside of that. He works with live events and all kinds of cool stuff. So get your pen and pad, get ready to take lots of great notes. Hey guys, I am hanging out talking with my friend Wesley Cole, who is in LA. How are you today, sir?
Doing great. How are you?
I'm good, man. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to talk with me. I know you're in the middle of your afternoon in LA, and I'm in Nashville, so we're about 2 hours apart. And so my day's kind of ending, and you're just kind of stuck in the middle of work. And so I appreciate you taking a little bit of time out of your day to talk with me and share with my audience your story of how you've worked your way up through the music business and what you're doing now. So I really appreciate you taking your time out.
Of course, my pleasure. I mean, it's the beauty of technology that we're able to do something like this.
It is. So you and I, just to kind of give my audience a quick history of how you and I know each other. So we've known each other for roughly about a year, I think now.
Uh-huh.
And so you do music licensing in the TV, film, sync world. And so obviously I write music for TV and film projects. And I reached out to you. I think I just kind of emailed you out of the blue one day a year or so ago. And actually, now to think about it, there is a couple of co-writers that I write music with, and one of them sent you a Christmas song, and you liked it and you signed it.
Uh-huh.
And then because of that, I reached out to you and told you who I was. Hey, I'm a part of this song, and can I send some more songs to you? And you're like, sure. And then you started signing songs, and so we built a relationship that way. And so, by the way, just on the record, thank you so much for liking my music enough to sign it and to be pitching it to projects. I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Well, you guys have a tight-knit group there, because I swear I get a different person that knows someone like each day, and it's a good thing to have that kind of system,
Yeah.
That's a great tool.
It has been a very helpful, supportive group of people that are focusing on the sync side of music licensing and writing music for TV and film commercials and projects and things like that. So it's been really good for us and helpful and supportive and that kind of thing. So, but I'm grateful that you're willing to put yourself out there on the line for our music and telling, these production companies, hey, we believe in this music enough that we're going to pitch it to you. So that says a lot about you guys and what you think of us and our music. And so I'm just really grateful for that. But I want to just briefly talk about your history of where you're from, how you got into music to begin with, and then we'll just kind of roll into what it is that you do nowadays.
Okay, sure. So I'm originally born in California, been here my whole life. I grew up in a town called Simi Valley. There wasn't like too much to do around there, so we spent most of our time creating, which originally got me into music. Both my mother and father have been involved in music in some sense. My dad having played the drums, my mom played guitar and involved in her teaching. She's a teacher. Um, but the entertainment industry as a whole has always been a huge part of my life. So going into college, I knew exactly where I wanted to go, which was music. And so I found a degree that was affordable and provided everything I needed in order to keep moving forward on that path at CSUN, which is California State University Northridge. And I started in the music industry program. And that kind of is what started my education of all of the other things that you can possibly do inside of the music industry, from
Hmm.
you know live touring aspects of things and live events, and to the back end of things like publishing and sync houses and things like that. And I immediately caught interest in writing jingles and that kind of thing,
Hmm.
because I'd always messed around with that stuff when I was a kid and when I was growing up, like in GarageBand and moving on to Logic until I was eventually able to invest in my own studio equipment, and that was like my original goal. And to some extent, I still get to do some things like that. But from CSUN, I found my first internship actually in a business law class, which was surprising because we had a substitute teacher one day, and he turned out to be a representative of a very successful company called Position Music that I then got to intern at for about half a year. And through there, I learned a lot of things. One, metadata, metadata, metadata.
Right.
That is that is the best part of this job.
Right.
um, and just starting to get an ear for sync, and starting to really disconnect from just writing music from an artist standpoint, and then taking into consideration elements that make a song commercially viable. That's what really changed the game for me to start. And
So
then,
when let me ask you real quick, when you how far into school were you in college when you got this internship?
I think I was in my junior year. So doing the internship, I wasn't expecting to get a job. I still wanted to finish school, but
Mhm.
getting those first, you know, opportunities to get something on your resume is so important and so crucial to finding your way into like an actual position. Um, you know, People should honestly always be searching for internships from as soon as they get out of high school or even in high school. I know people that have opportunities when they're like just started senior year of high school, and the more you can get, the better chances you have at growing.
So metadata, metadata, metadata.
Mm-hmm.
That's a term that I hate with a passion, but again, you have to know it.
Right.
So because you're wanting to go even in college in this internship, you're going straight into the sync world
Right.
is what you're wanting to do, right? So explain to the audience what metadata is and why it is so important.
Yeah. So metadata is that one thing that takes the most time but is the most essential when it comes to sync. And the way that we usually break it down is you start off with your generic terms, as in, who is the artist, what genre is it, and then you go into some deeper things, as in moods, like what kind of mood does this track make you feel? If does it feel like a sunny kind of like happy, outgoing mood, or is it more of a melancholy, pensive sort of mood? That's how we start to diversify within the catalog. On top of that, we sometimes attach keywords to things. So if you hear a spot and just based on experience or firsthand experience, you can see that, this is the kind of song that goes with a barbecue commercial. This is the kind
Sure.
of song that you see on a skating video or something. There's a certain keyword asset to it that becomes apparent. And so we'll try to come up with as many detailed ideas as possible that could attach to a song. So in the term that we do get that search, we'll easily be able to search it up. And we have a special tool in our catalog that allows us to search through tracks, which is, without that, this would be like next to impossible. You have so many
Right.
tracks, so many artists.
So you're talking about currently with the company that you work with now, which is Brewhouse Music,
Uh-huh.
is what you're talking about, the system that you guys have set up with that. So I want to get more into that a little bit later on as far as what you do with Brewhouse Music.
Sure.
During college, who was this internship with that again that you were doing that with?
It was with Position Music,
Position Music.
and
Okay.
my supervisor's name was Mark Chapello, and he had an amazing ear for A&R. He actually was the guy who signed Welshly Arms to that company, who went on to becoming one of these like staple artists in the sync world. And just recently, I heard that they were signed to Republic Records. So,
Okay.
it was an A1 guy to be learning from, and he taught me a
Right.
lot of things.
So can I ask what are maybe three things that he taught you that you've kept in your head all of these years doing this that's still active in how you pursue your job currently?
I mean, I would say just having the ear for what makes a track syncable. Um, the band that he signed, like I'm consistently always kind of referring back and getting that kind of concept in my head because there's such a certain sound to it, the stomps and the claps and the extra distorted guitar and the call and response sort of vocals, like those kinds of things to me just are sync gold these
Right.
days.
Right.
Um, and then he also taught me that there's a point at which, a song will sound like it was written for sync, and that's when you can actually lose opportunities. You want it to be an authentic artist piece that still incorporates those elements.
Sure.
And so I always take that into consideration when we get submissions. Aside from that, he just, told me that to really like sink in as you're, working in the company, don't take those chances and ask the boss out for a lunch, you and kind of just know that if you keep your head towards it, you'll get there eventually. And
Hmm.
just kind of having that faith in yourself, even when, at the beginning, it's super hard to find an opportunity. You're just a fresh guy off the street. Why why are we
Yeah.
going to give you this salary over this one? So
Right.
it learning to remain persistent, which definitely was the case at the following internship, which I had, which was at this company called Human Worldwide, and they're a company that specializes in custom music, mostly in the advertising business. And this is pretty much where I entered into advertising, as Precision Music does a lot of work in trailers, um, and they've done some work in advertising as well in film. But Human mostly focused on advertising, and they were doing extremely well at the time when I joined them. They had just won a Grand Prix at Cannes, which was a huge, boost. And
Hmm.
to see that office and to see, where you can get if you do start winning those spots, they have a nice roster of composers that are working there, and they have in-house composers that have their own built studios inside of their building that come to work, and they're just there to write. And that was all very exciting to me. And so interning there, I took every opportunity I could possibly take. If they need me to stay super late, if they need me to, you know and over time you get more trust within the company.
Sure.
and that's what opens the doors. There was one night where I had to stay and transcribe some music for a spot, but I can't name the actual brand. It was hilarious. I was transcribing Darude Sandstorm,
Mm.
which is a very simple song. I'm not sure if you've heard of it, but it's like the staple of trance. I could sing it for you if you want.
You just had to do it so much, huh?
Yeah, I
Um,
know. It's just the funniest part about it is it's very repetitive. So like
right.
transcribing a song like that is hilarious because you're just sitting
Oh,
there going.
same thing over and over. Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
um, and through that company, over time, they usually kind of transition you over to the machine room aspect of things, which is a whole nother part of this business of sync world and commercials and advertising. And that's basically a team of people that work behind the scenes, pulling tracks from the catalog and editing them to picture and cleaning them up and cleaning up videos that are sent by clients and making sure that the VOs are attached, which is voiceover, I'm sure
right.
but
Yep.
doing all those sorts of things amongst managing multiple emails and multiple deadlines requested from producers, which really kind of taught me the best ways to organize those sort of systems. And there's so much you can take from each position that kind of leads to the next.
So the machine room, you're saying that that is a group of people that, okay, let's if you pick a song to be used in some video, a TV show or a commercial or ad or whatever it is, and it goes to this group of people in the machine room, and they're the ones who are responsible for taking that song, if it's a 3-minute song, editing it down to like a minute commercial, 30 seconds or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Well, I mean, for the most part, the spots were written to commercial, so it was rare that they would be longer than 30 seconds. We
Yeah.
sometimes it would be a matter of extending tracks too.
Okay.
And learning how to do that is a super important tool because you do that everywhere you go. Like even here, we're still doing that. I did that at several different companies. It's an extremely like essential tool, I would say.
Knowing how to extend a track, correct?
Yeah, knowing how to grab the downbeats and knowing how to build the track as well, because you don't want it to feel stagnant. Starting from a slow beginning and building and then growing and adding in extra elements that would have been already glossed over if you had played the original track, but
Sure.
take almost like rewriting the song sometimes.
So at this company, what were some of the different positions that you held there? Because you said you were working your way up through the company. So what all did you get to do for them?
Yeah, a lot of stuff. And the thing is, if you want to do something, you have to ask for it. You can't just expect them to give you the opportunity. And so, I wanted to write. I wanted to start writing on these briefs that were coming in and throw my own hat into the ring. And that opened so many doors for me because once I got the approval to start writing on things, I started getting, firsthand feedback from their in-house creative team that would tell me, ways to improve my song, ways to use the right mix and listening to the reference track and taking the tempo from there and all these little tips that make such a difference when you're writing for something. If you get a brief and it's like, we want a happy organic marimba infused, piece, and you just go with that. But they also provide you with a reference and they provide you with an old spot. You got to always take a look at those things. You got to always like completely dissect what they liked about the other spots and try to come as close as possible to that in your version.
Yeah.
uh, that's such a good thing to have.
Are you always getting to write to picture? or do you have to do it? Some of it's just completely from your imagination and for different things.
So, ideally you get to write to picture, but there are some times, yeah, where you just have to kind of imagine it. And sometimes you'll get a brief where, the agency or the company that you're working with hasn't completely landed on what direction they want to go yet, but they
Hmm.
want to have something that has the right tempo and the right groove in order to film to. So they sometimes you might even write a song and then they'll take your song and go on a set and record with that song playing in the background and marry your tempo to the picture, which is then, the editor will then take the song playing in the background and edit it to that, and then they might even not want the song anymore. So now you have
Yeah,
to take that tempo and completely rewrite it.
yeah,
And it's really cool though when that happens, because seeing the picture after you write the sound can be such an eye-opening experience. You're like, oh wow, I never realized it could land in that sense.
hmm
um, but I did have a big success over there, which was I was able to write a original composition for a national campaign for Chipotle, which
nice.
was kind of my I would say it was like the height of that internship. Of course, winning a
Yeah,
spot, making money,
that's
that's
great.
always a great thing.
Yeah, so that's really cool. I hadn't thought about that as far as writing music that would end up being used while they're filming a commercial or whatever the project is, to use that as a reference, that you get to do that. That's a cool thing. I always think of it as they film the commercial and then they put a reference track to it to kind of give them an idea what they want, and then they end up hiring someone to go back and kind of change, build something around what that was and replacing that. You know,
Right, and that
so
totally happens too.
yeah, yeah. But to do what you're talking about, I haven't. I don't guess I've heard of that being a situation. So that's cool that you get to do that.
Yeah, those are those like really exciting opportunities. And even one really cool thing I got to do when I was over there was that we had a spot for a national fast food commercial, and one of the composers that was on salary with the company was successful enough to have his arrangement of a song that they provided the lyrics for, and then we were able to go back to my college, believe it or not, where they were filming in the auditorium there, like the newest performing arts center, and to be back on campus and working on a spot. I got to go and attend the actual live shoot,
Nice.
and it was pretty hectic because it was like we were filming the commercial, but we also needed to conduct this live choir that was singing the arrangement that they had written.
Mhm.
Like, how crazy is that? And so
Yeah,
you're dodging moving set pieces while trying to conduct this choir.
yeah.
Um, it was a blast, you
That's
know.
cool.
Aside from that, there was another thing that we did for a car commercial that involved recording the exhaust sounds of several cars with high speeds, basically on a
Mhm.
dyno, and figuring out how to take that audio and create music with it, like actually finding the pitches within the cars on the
Right.
dyno. It blew my
I
mind.
I
It
feel
was
like I've
really
seen that
cool.
commercial. Have I
Yeah,
seen that commercial?
I'm sure you have. It was an Audi spot.
Okay. Okay. I know that's familiar to me, so I'll have to go back and look that up. But I know that I know that. So that's cool.
They did the Star Trek theme and the Cheers theme. Yeah. So that was really cool to see behind the scenes.
So the company that you're interning with did the Star Trek and the Cheers theme songs?
Yeah, through the exhaust of the Audi.
Oh, okay. I got you. That's fun.
Yeah.
That is really cool. Okay.
Yeah. And they flew out one of their composers from New York who had actually won that one.
Okay.
That was also the first company that I'd been at that operated with two separate coasts, working together simultaneously, which is
Right.
pretty intense. And the timing is so different. Being able to juggle, this person needs this by noon, but that's actually, you know much earlier than you expect. That's 9 a.m.
Right.
So,
Yeah, because they're Eastern time and you're on Pacific time.
right, exactly.
So once you spent some time working there as an intern, and
hmm
then
and then I got a hired position as somewhat of a full-time intern slash machine room assistant slash freelance composer.
okay, this is for the same company.
hmm
Okay.
and that's where I just kind of kept learning, kept growing,
Hmm.
and eventually I moved on to this place called Massive Music,
Yeah.
which is a international music house, and I was located in their Culver City office, where I kept doing a similar thing, writing music for spots, executing music searches in catalogs. Um, but one thing that they did teach me that was new was I got to start learning how to do business development and learning sort of the business side of things, which is also very important to know. It's good to know that stuff, because if you're a freelance composer and you don't have a sales rep working for you, this teaches you how to interact with agencies, how to interact with copywriters, art directors, creative directors, to because there's definitely a certain etiquette to it all. And yeah, so they started training me in that, and I started learning how to write emails and how to go online and take a spot and see what I connect with on it, and reaching out to clients and starting to build those relationships.
So I'm curious if you're able to share one or two things as far as like you talk about the etiquette of learning how to approach people in these different positions that are working on these jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think most people know how to write an email. Most people in my audience are going to. I say that, but there's always somebody who's not quite sure. That there's always someone asking is like, how do I contact so and so about wanting to have music put into something? So, what would be some advice that you would suggest when someone's reaching out, whether it be to you in your position currently, or uh, maybe the positions that you are trying to reach out to people in?
Mm-hmm.
What some things that you should do, maybe one or two things that you should not do when you're trying to communicate with people that you're trying to get music to. Does that make sense?
Sure. Well, I guess those are two different answers. So
Sure.
if someone's reaching out to me, I would just want them to be pretty much blatantly direct. I'm very cool when it comes to that stuff. If tell me what you are, what you're doing, give me a link to listen to some music. That's about it. And once I listen to the music, I'll know very quickly whether or not we'll be able to do anything.
Yeah.
As far as reaching out to clients goes, it's keeping it short and sweet, but adding enough intrigue to catch someone's interest. Um, and to do that, it's always recommended that you only reach out on spots that you personally appreciate, not just there's this many spots right here. I might as well just reach out to all of them. That's while that could work, I think it's more authentic to be able to add a life anecdote or something in your email that really connects to what you saw, or say how it impacted you, or you appreciate this joke, or you really enjoy this actor or comedian who is featured in this spot, and connecting with people that way.
Right.
That can be huge.
Yeah. That's good. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Um, okay. I'm also curious as far as when you're working at these companies and these are custom music houses. So you're creating the music. You're getting to write music for these commercials. Now, do you always have a reference track that you're basically replacing, or is there sometimes that they're just giving you just picture and they're saying, okay, we want you to write the music completely from scratch, but we want it in sort of this genre or this vein of music, but just go, you just make it up and go.
Yeah. It's always very exciting when you get those sorts of briefs. I would say they're pretty rare, because for the most part, an agency will already have a somewhat uh, direction that they're looking to go,
Hmm.
whether it's, based on something they've done in the past that's direct to brand, because brands have a certain sound to them too, which you start to learn from years within the business. You'll be like, okay, yeah, that sounds like a Nike spot.
Hmm.
Um, and when you do get those opportunities to go wild with it, even when they say, go for it, just wow us, I would highly recommend listening to some of their past stuff and
Yeah,
taking from there, and then creating it from whatever you creatively want to design.
right. I think it's smart. That's wisdom, knowing what has been used that has been successful. And again, like you said, that they've got a brand that they're built around, and a sound that is built around that brand already. So
Right.
you want to stay within the realm of what that sonic branding is, and then kind of add your own flavor to that, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the extra touches that you can add on your instruments, I think that tape delay is like one of the most essential tools as far as sprucing up your sounds to make them sound a little more familiar. That is huge, as well as just knowing how to make a song that's not so busy that it completely distracts from what's going on the screen, because
Hmm.
you might have an amazing song, but it might be too much for what the commercial is actually asking for, you know
Right.
especially if there's a lot of VO over there. You don't want to have like a million different percussive elements, because that'll just muddy up the VO.
Right. Now, are you talking about when you're creating custom music to a commercial that's only 30 seconds long already? And so you're creating a 30-second spot, or are you talking about, because like when I send music to you, I send you full songs
Right.
most of the
Yeah,
time. So,
it's definitely different than sending full songs. It's
right,
there's a whole formula to it all.
right,
You start to learn kind of how, oh, here at 10 seconds, this is where the music's going to cut out, and we're going to do a big switch. And now we're going to jump into the part where everything's, going full speed. And then maybe we'll drop out again right at 20 seconds. And then we'll amp up again for the last five. Like,
yeah,
there is definitely a path. And once you work with enough tracks that have been written in that style, you'll
hmm,
see that they're very interchangeable. They
right,
all follow a similar technique there.
sure, yeah. 'Cause I've written, like you've been doing. I write music for commercials that custom. You got a 30-second spot that you're trying to fill in, and it's hard. It's like you're trying to create an entire song, the concept of a song at least, in a very short time frame. Plus, like you said, trying to avoid the spots where there's voiceover happening. So you're trying to fill in these gaps and still make a complete cohesive song fit in a very short amount of time. That's not easy.
Yeah.
Especially when you're writing jingles. You said you've written some jingles. I've had to write a
Hmm.
couple of jingles, and jingles are hard, man. People will probably think it's jingle. That's super easy. I think that's one of the hardest things to do
Yeah, I
lyrically.
mean, I mean, jingles in a sense have somewhat evolved as to what that word means to me, at least. Like I refer to jingles as almost any music in a commercial, and the thing that people don't realize is that these the music, that little 15-second track, is produced at the same quality that an artist would release, like a professional artist, because that's
Absolutely.
how good it has to be these
Right.
days.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
it's not just, oh, let me just throw together this little jingle, let me just hum a tune for you. You
Yeah.
know,
Sure.
it's all the elements, the same studio design, the same mixers, the same plugins, all that stuff.
Right. And to me, the hardest thing with writing jingles, and so when I say a jingle, the companies that are wanting a song that talks about their product or their brand,
Hmm.
it's rooms to go, and they're wanting to, you're talking about colors and styles and bedding and whatever, this, like, there are certain phrases that they ask you to put in, or certain words they want you to put in sometimes to these jingles. and you got to create
Hmm.
a song about, about a furniture store. It's like that's hard, and I've had to do it. Um,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. I mean, I would compare that back to when I'm doing metadata and thinking of keywords, you got to think of
sure,
what a furniture store would make you feel. Does it feel homely? Does it feel warm?
yeah,
And then sort of start to create your track with that idea in mind.
yeah. Well, one of the things that's interesting to me is because I've been told by some licensing companies and some supervisors that jingles are kind of dead. People don't like write jingles as far as like, the rooms to go, or where you put the name of the company in the song itself, that kind of stuff, just like we're talking about. But
Mm.
it's become more of, an actual song that fits the idea or the feeling of the emotion of what the company is about. Like they say, if it's a diaper commercial, you don't sing about diapers, right? You don't say the word diaper. You talk about loving, loving and caring, and that kind of thing, the in home, and because you're trying to create that emotion, right, of family and of children and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So they don't do that a lot anymore. But as I've been watching commercials the past few months or so, like I've seen a lot of jingles kind of come back into play, like where they're actually putting the actual context of a brand in the song itself. And it's kind of like
Right.
to me, it's kind of this resurgence of sorts. And so I've found that interesting.
I think it's very common for brands these days to take an old song that everyone knows that's familiar and revamp it. The State Farm jingle, there or not the State Farm. I'll say the Nationwide jingle. The
Yeah, yeah,
Nationwide is on your side. They were able to keep that same melody, that same familiar jingle, but then they added in artists, singing it in their own respective genres,
right.
which is more, modern. It's current. People can connect with it more instead of just a sound. We actually did one of those at Massive. We were working on the Tori Kelly one, which was cool.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Oh, I love Tori
getting to
Kelly.
write a getting to write a spot and thinking of how the artist would write it, and then the winning spot went on to then be performed by her, which is very cool. So
So okay, so let me ask you that. That's interesting to me. I remember that commercial, and I love Tori Kelly. She's one of my favorite singers. Okay, so someone wrote the version that Tori Kelly ended up singing. They did.
exactly.
Nationwide didn't go to Tori Kelly and say, "Hey, we want you to write your version of what this jingle would be, and you sing it." Somebody else did it, and then she performed that person's version.
Right.
That's
Yep.
interesting. See, I wouldn't have thought that. I watching that commercial, I would think, oh, Tori Kelly came up with that, or her co-writers or whoever, her
Hmm.
people that she works with would have done that together. So that's fascinating to me that she had nothing to actually do with that.
That one song that she has, that's it's something about like achieving your dreams. I mean, a lot of her songs are about that.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
trying to,
oh yeah,
taking that song, which was her biggest hit, and just dissecting the elements of that, and then writing the song around that. That was pretty much the strategy there.
mm,
You know,
that's
she
smart.
she likes to do those little kind of like palm muted strums on an acoustic guitar, so
Yep,
it's got to be there. Got to throw some riffs in, of course.
right,
Thinking in the mind of the artist is it's a pretty unique task.
very much. Yeah, that's very interesting that they did that way. So that's good to know. I think that's great for my audience to know, for people that are wanting to get into writing custom music or jingles, or if they're just trying to get their own music uh, into the sync world. It's like that's an option. Okay, think of your favorite artist, write your song in a vein that's similar to what they do in that sort of that area of what they do, and then that might be an opportunity for that artist to sing your song, that's similar to what they do already in a in an ad or in a show or whatever it is. So that's cool.
And that goes right along with the whole ghostwriter movement as well. Just writing songs that you think you could hear your favorite artist singing, and potentially it could happen. They might approach you if it sounds right. If you reach out and they just instantly are like, yes, this is the song we want this top 40 artist to perform. That can happen. It
Yeah.
does all the
Yeah.
time.
Okay, so what do you think is the hardest part of writing custom music? And so when we say custom music, you'd say you're working for a custom music house or a music house that
Hmm.
has custom music. So, when you're writing music for commercials or let me ask you this, what did you write music for? You did obviously you did commercials. Did you also do TV shows and movie trailers or films and things like that as well? Or is it just strictly for ads at that time?
For the most part, it's been ads. I did do a side project where I scored a short film, and that was a whole, I liked that experience a lot because for once I didn't have someone like telling me exactly what I had to do. I mean, of course, you got to get approval from the director, but if you don't like taking feedback and doing re-edits and stuff, then the commercial industry is not the one. It's not the one.
Right.
Sometimes that'll go on for months at a time. It takes a while to eventually clear something. And then it's funny, one guy that I knew at a past job told me like he didn't believe he won the song until it actually aired. Even if they said, you never know, because sometimes your song might go through, but then somewhere in the past, some editor put this reference on, and they got, they fell in love with it, and so that's what the client ended up buying.
They stuck
It,
with the reference.
it
Yeah.
can happen. Yeah.
How often do you think that happens as far as someone keeping the reference track as opposed to switching it out with something different?
I mean, I would have to say, I'm sure it happens a lot. I would say that a lot of it can come down to the budget, and then a lot of it can come down to what kind of results they're getting from whoever's writing for the spot. If they're not landing on the same note, if they're not feeling it, and the reference track is right, and they get that demo love kind of thing going,
Mhm.
then you're cooked. The reference
So
track is going to take it.
what let me ask you this. If someone's using a reference track to
Hmm.
they're not going to put a track on as a reference track if they didn't like it to begin with, correct?
Yes,
Okay. So if
and this is in the terms of the editor liking it. Usually, it's the editor who picks the reference track.
okay, um, but then the production, like the director and executive producers and everything, like are they having to sign off on what the reference track is to be used? Just as a reference, not for a final, but just to use it as even as a reference to this, so they can see it and put that music to it and say, yeah, that's what we're looking for. I mean, the directors or producers have to sign off on that, correct?
Well, depending on the spot, if it's a spot that isn't completely based on the music, I'm sure it's a little looser than you would think.
Okay,
Now, if it's like a spot that's like a huge, you know, music production and they've got this artist involved, yeah, I would assume that they would need approval every step of the way.
hmm
Um, but if it's a spot where they're getting a concept across and now they need to just get the music to match the feeling of the whole commercial,
right,
a lot of the times an editor will go on something like Killer Tracks or and find a song and just throw it on there and edit it with that, just to send the vibe along, because there's a lot of steps along the way, from my understanding, that agencies need to check in with clients and confirm with them that they're going the right direction, that the client's happy,
sure,
because that's a whole nother thing. When you think of it, in a way, the agency is the middleman, unless you're working direct with client. So even if your song goes through with the agency and the agency loves it, if the client doesn't like it, you're back to square one.
yeah. Client being Rooms to Go or Wendy's or whoever it is, whoever the brand of the commercial is going to be for, that's the client.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I'm just trying to figure out. I'm curious when a reference track is used and the editor likes it, they liked it enough that they're going to put it on, to use as a reference. Then,
Hmm.
the director hears it, their producers hear it, the client hears it. They're like, yeah, we like that. Why would you not just go with the reference track to begin with? Like, why, if you like it enough, and like that's great, why go about having to replace it and paying someone else to do a custom track to it? Or is that when you say that they're just going to use it anyway because they already do like it?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that sometimes it comes down to whether or not the agency feels like it's enough of a creation.
Sure.
Why wouldn't you want to have your own music that you helped make? I I would totally understand that. Pulling a reference just feels a little too easy sometimes.
Yeah. So does an editor is obviously, they're not a composer. I mean, there some of them are, yes.
Hmm.
Do editors, in your experience, ever create a custom track to throw on there as the reference, hoping that it's going to become the final?
It's possible. I haven't run into that. I haven't known anyone. I mean, I do know editors, and I know editors that write music, and uh, on a professional sense, they would have to be really darn good. They'd have to be really good at both editing and writing music, and in order to be amazing at both of those things, that would be a pretty good feat to accomplish. I feel like that's a very rare occurrence. However, there's a lot of places that do have in-house music teams,
Yeah.
and those people, of course, they're running the gamut. If you're reaching out to them, they're going to tell you we've got someone who handles all that stuff for us, and there's nothing you can do about that unless you have something that they don't. If that guy can't write this style, or if you just have this music that is just like so fresh and new,
Hmm.
you know, to break away from what's there. A lot of it is extremely relationship based, I would
Sure, of
say.
course. Yeah. So when you're creating music at a custom music house and you're writing the music, you're replacing the reference tracks most of the time, correct? That's what your job is to create custom music that is to replace what is already there as a reference.
Yeah,
That's what you were doing, or you were creating it from scratch.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say that sometimes we get a concept and we'll get a couple reference tracks. And then one other thing I'd want to add is that sometimes a reference track is something like a Katy Perry song or something, and you can't use it.
Right.
That's another reason why they wouldn't go with the reference, because that's way too much money
Gotcha.
that
Yep.
they're going to be willing to spend. So they're
Yep.
going to want to find the next best thing. And a lot of the times they will reach out to the actual artist. If it's not someone as big, then they'll try to negotiate a thing, and if they can't, then they'll go and explore more options, and then if that doesn't work, they may just end up going with it and giving them the price they wanted.
Hmm.
um, However, like around at Brewhouse, we receive a numerous amount of styles of briefs, and since we're working a lot with Hasbro, we're always creating custom music for them, and sometimes they'll give us some lyrics, and we'll create a song for them. Uh, and then sometimes we'll get a music search in, and in those situations, we'll scour our catalog and pull tracks that work for that. And if they like something like that, but they want options, we could either take that track and open it and create a slightly different alteration, or we could, create something fresh.
Sure. Currently, you work with Brewhouse Music,
Hmm.
which is a music licensing agency. And how long have you been there now?
I've been here for about a year and a half.
Okay, so not too much longer before you and I got introduced to each other, actually, roughly.
Yeah.
That's cool. Um, and what is your position, your title there?
Currently, I am a producer here. I started off as a music coordinator, and then I became a project manager, and now I'm a producer.
Okay, and so what does that entail as a producer? Like, what does that mean for the audience?
So now I mostly focus on business development and making new connections with brands and creatives, and working on networking for the company. But kind of along the way, I've sort of maintained my responsibilities in each section. So I do still manage our catalog, and I still sign artists into that, which is what I originally started doing as a music coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
And then as a project manager, I'm in charge of making sure we deliver on time, make sure we're moving forward with our designated tasks for the week, running the social media for the company, um, creating reels and sending those out. And recently we started making these pretty cool playlists that our resident graphic designer slash composer slash partner Joseph has been making for us, which look very cool.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm really grateful to this team for giving me all these opportunities, and they're very cool guys.
Yeah, that's awesome. So now you guys do commercial ad campaigns,
Mm-hmm.
TV commercials. You also do TV shows and film projects, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And do you guys do movie trailers as well, or just pitching for the actual movies themselves?
That is one area that I'd really like to expand further into
The
in
movie
this next
trailers?
coming year.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
And we've done video game trailers, which in
Okay.
some extent can run along the same lines of style. It always depends on what they're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
So we're a very reactional business. However, taking that forward approach and getting our, what I would say, like the S class tracks and sending those over to trailer houses and starting to build a relationship there, so they have them. For
Right.
the most part, people will get an email, they'll see the songs, they'll download them, and then they'll just have them in a folder. And if a job comes in and they're looking for something, then they'll peek through and find whatever works. And I'm
Right.
sure there's a lot of competition there. So
Yeah. So in the space that you guys are working in with the ads and TV shows and the actual movies themselves, when you're getting briefs, which is the information that a production company is sending to you saying, or a client sending to you saying, we want this kind of music for this type of project and send us what you have. What would you say is a couple of the main genres that you guys are always being asked for?
okay, well, for the most part, they're always looking for something new, something that's never been heard before.
Okay.
That's usually a starting figure. But as far as genres, I would say we get a lot of cool crate digger style hip hop, like sampled kind of cool vintage sounding beats.
Okay.
Those we've gotten a few briefs for those. Of course, around this time of the year, we get a lot of holiday briefs, so holiday
Mm-hmm.
spots. Um, a lot of it comes down to concepts and kind of the way that culture is moving. So, with a lot of activism and feminism and women empowerment, we get a lot of briefs for songs that kind of amplify that as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm always looking for artists that have that kind of confidence that'll just burst right through on picture. But yeah, I mean, there's honestly an endless possibility for what's going to come in the door, which is why I really like doing this,
Yeah.
because it keeps it so exciting.
Sure.
One day we might be doing some crazy Afro-Cuban beats, and then the next day we're doing like hardcore dubstep.
Mm-hmm.
You never know.
Yeah. Now, when it comes to commercials, are you guys are, because you're also a custom music house as well. So you have in-house producers working on music,
Uh-huh.
as well as having artists like myself sending you music, just like full songs to pitch. So, what would you say, but maybe percentage wise, ratio wise, do you get more of? Do you get more companies asking you for the custom music, create a 30-second spot for me in that realm versus full songs from artists that are trying to get music licensed themselves, like
Mm-hmm.
myself, or like what does that percentage just kind of across the board look like for you? You think?
It's pretty half and half, I
Oh,
would
really?
have to say.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of times when we'll get a search and it's due by the end of the day, or it's due in the next 2 hours.
Yeah.
If we have enough time to create custom music, we'll do it. But if we don't, then we're going to just rely on our catalog or very, very quick outreach to people that we can rely on.
Hmm.
Um,
That's good. That's good. This is great information. I appreciate you sharing all this because this is kind of stuff that people don't hear very often. It's like you can't go online and just look up the answer to that question and get a straightforward answer.
yeah,
So I appreciate you being willing to share that and so that the audience knows. Because I know a lot of people that are working in the sync music world that are trying to get their music licensed. And some people want to do composing for custom music houses, and some
mhm,
people just want to be more on the artist side of things and try to get their music as an artist licensed. And to know, kind of what that looks like, what you're maybe where you should put your foot in the door and focus on this side or on this side more heavily, depending on who that person is really good.
right.
That's good
I
for
mean,
them.
for on the artist side of things, me and the rest of the company, like we like to focus on artists that are actually out there doing it. Like their goal is to be touring and to have that fan base.
Yeah.
And I think that sync is a huge opportunity to grow your fan base and to get those placements and get on those Spotify playlists. We're sending around playlists to clientele that are totally off the charts, and they're getting that sort of exposure that you wouldn't just be able to have
Hmm.
as yourself,
Yeah.
just by yourself.
So I have a lot of people that ask me, a lot of artists that say, I want to, I'm trying to get into sync. I have this new song I just recorded. Should I, as an artist, should I release it? Go ahead and release the song now and hope that it gets picked up, and placed in either a show or an ad or whatever, or should I hold on to it and wait until somebody says that they want to license the song, and then whenever that commercial or TV show comes out, then I release it simultaneously with that release when that show or ad goes live. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Which of the do you see a preference from your side of things? Does it matter one way or the other?
Well, I guess it depends on what your network is at the moment. Like, are you a full DIY musician, or are you working with a label and you're doing your own grind at the same time as wanting to get your song placed in sync?
Yeah, I would say from the do-it-yourself indie artist that's out working it themselves. Because yeah, when you've got a label and management company and all these people that you have this team around you that you're signed to, and they're pushing you and they're marketing and strategizing and all that kind of stuff, I think that's a little different than when you're an independent artist.
Right.
Actually reaching out to licensing agents and supervisors and whoever on your own. So I'm more thinking along that line for people that I know.
Yeah. So you're definitely referring to from the artist standpoint, like this is their artist's music.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'd say that there are huge benefits to having unreleased music, and we have gotten actually several briefs in the past where they're looking for unreleased songs that they want to break with a new product.
Okay.
Um, However, if you don't have a ton of music released and you're looking to build your footprint and your following, I wouldn't just sit and wait, for a sync to happen, because many times it takes a while, as I'm sure you know.
Oh yeah.
it takes a while, and you could literally get a call 4 years from the day that you signed your song with a sync label, and all of a sudden you've got this placement with this new spot, and it could just appear like that. And sometimes we even take there's moments where we might pitch a song that's exactly that, and they'll love it,
Hmm.
and boom, now your song's in.
Right, but what if you've waited that 4 years to release a song, thinking, well, I don't want to put it out because it might get synced, but it could be years down the road before it happens. So do you take that chance?
I would say if you think a song is a hit, um, give it a deadline. If you haven't gotten to placement as an unreleased song, I mean, there's no point in just continuously hoping and praying. Like, I understand that from one side, but then again, I think that you should keep moving forward.
Sure. Yeah. So like even that song, "Safe in These Arms," that belongs to me and a guy named Trey Hill, who is the artist. That you signed that song. I sent that to you, a month or so ago, and you're like, "Dude, this is great. I love it." Signed it, and so now you're pitching it. And he actually went ahead and just released it as his new single just a couple of weeks ago.
Uh-huh.
Because we're super excited about the song, and yeah, we wanted to get a placement at some point, and hopefully it will sooner than later. But if it, even if it is 3 or 4 years down the road, it's like, well, there's life in it now for him as an artist, so we want it to be out there, and I agree with everything that you're saying, and I know what you're saying, and at the same time, it's like that's a tricky place to be for artists and songwriters. It's like, okay, I've got this song, I want to get it out to the world because this is what I do as an artist, right? And I'm out touring, and
Yeah.
and so I can't wait necessarily for the hope down the road that this might happen when this is happening right now. Does that make sense?
Right.
Because it can still get placed. Like even though we've already released the song, obviously it can still be used as in license because I mean there's tons of huge artists that have Imagine Dragons. Those guys they put out a song that's a hit single and then it gets placed into a Jeep commercial, right?
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
it's a hit song, that
Right.
kind of thing. So
So for example, if you have an album that you're in the process of working on, and you've set a deadline for yourself as to when you want to release it or when you want to at least have it complete, and by timing you get a brief or you get an email from whoever's working your sync or someone like that, a manager, and they're looking for an unreleased song. That's that's when I think those things happen.
yeah,
You've been working on the song, it's put away, but you're still working on the rest. You're not ready to release the whole thing.
hmm
Just if you write a whole single and you've got it finished and ready to go, you can always play that gamble, or you can put it out. It's up to you, really.
sure, yeah, and that makes total sense. So when someone reaches out to you as an artist, what is it that you're looking for when an artist comes to you and says, "Hey, I'm interested in having my songs licensed to put into TV shows and movies, and would love to work with your company." What is it that you're looking for to be signed, and how do you determine whether or not you want to work with that artist?
Well, to start, if we have a surplus of the genre that we were submitted, and if the song is not top quality production value, that's an instant, we're going to have to pass, because there's no point in getting extra music that's not as produced and as mixed as the top in that certain style.
Mm-hmm.
So I would highly recommend that anytime submitting music, you submit the absolute best quality mix and master, even if you're not sure if the song's finished. Like if you're sending it out to someone, that song has to be ready to go. If you're sending around demos, it should be to like someone personally. If you're sending a demo to a supervisor or a sync agent, that's a quick way to just kind of have the door shut.
Yeah.
However, there's certain elements, like I mentioned before, that I'll instantly hear in a song as far as syncability goes, when it comes to incorporating hand claps or the call and response hey ho kind of thing, or just the energy of the song as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, there's in more of the TV and film side of things, there's there's more of a varying style. But in advertising, there's not too many different styles out there that, that you'll get a brief for that are going to land in a spot. That's why seeing commercials, like, you know exactly what kind of music's going to be with that kind of commercial.
Right. Now, when it comes to doing custom music, do you guys ever bring in outside people to do, like an independent contractor type work for someone outside of your actual company to write custom music for some projects, or do you just work with the people that are already inside Brewhouse Music to create music custom wise for commercial projects?
Yeah, so absolutely. We definitely do some outreach. Actually, there was this guy who I had discovered, and I believe he lives somewhere in Europe, and we gave him an opportunity to write on a Comcast spot that we ended up winning with one of his songs.
Nice.
And so, it does happen, and it all depends on, I would highly recommend that people always make it clear that they are willing to do that stuff.
Yeah.
However, nowadays I've created a form that I send out to all the artists that we work with in order for them to fill out and kind of list what their specialties are as far as styles go.
Mm-hmm.
And moving into 2020, we're trying to do a lot more outreach for that kind of thing, even on, smaller budgets spots.
Sure.
So we want to bring in more music. We want to give people more opportunities. And, when you are writing for one of these projects, there will be demo fees involved, of course.
Meaning that you're willing to pay the artist, composer, a demo fee to create a demo that will be pitched, hoping that it will land as the actual spot.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
What
what
does that look like? What's an average price range that a demo rate is paid for?
Usually around $300
Okay.
is about the typical. And now if it's like a 6-second thing, the 6-second mnemonic or a 6-second
Sting?
Sting, yeah. Then you might be looking at about half of that.
Okay.
Like $150 or so. And then there's also opportunities for vocalists. So since we do have a full studio here in Los Feliz, we do bring in vocalists from time to time, and they'll come in and they'll sing for a session. And depending on how long the session goes, and obviously how much demo fees we have to work with, we'll pay them respectively as well.
Yeah. And then as far as like if you do the demo, you get paid a demo rate. If it actually lands and you win the spot, then what would be an average price range that you get to do a commercial?
Well, there's a whole breakdown as far as usages go. So if it's used for a digital spot like social media and stuff, it's not gonna be like some huge profit. Now, if you land a broadcast spot and it's national broadcast, then you're looking at a higher payout. It's always varying depending on the client's budget and the usage. I mean, to give it a rough estimate, I mean, most digital spots are anywhere between like 3,000 to 10,000.
Digital being like online?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like online use only / social media.
Right.
But no, not broadcast.
Okay. Okay. And then but if it ends up being a broadcast, then it's going to be that much or more then, I'm assuming.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, they can grow exponentially.
Yeah.
And it also depends on like what commercial. Like if you win a Super Bowl spot,
sure, obviously those
you're
huge.
made.
You can either do nationwide spots or a regional spot, which might just cover a couple of states, or something that's just local, just within your town or your one state kind of a thing. And then you're online, which is you're talking about social media, and YouTube, and things like that. Okay, that's cool. Well, just wrapping up here. I mean, we could go on for another hour. I could easily talk to you another hour, but I know you got work to do. And so, but just to wrap up here, what would be, some advice, some practical how-to advice for people wanting, either artists that are wanting to get into doing this, trying to get their music either to be a custom music composer, or as an artist getting their music in to guys like you into that world, or for people that want to come and work, as a licensing agent or within a licensing company, or on the custom music side that works in that company itself. Like, what are some advice? Here's some things to do. Here's some things not to do to get your foot in the door to do those types of things.
Well, on the side of being a artist in sync, I would say don't base your music off of what you think is going to be syncable. Always write what comes natural to you. And then in the past, once you've moved on, then you can start thinking about adding in those syncable elements that will help the song to boost its commercial appeal. But really just write what is authentic to you, because we'll know whether it's something you wrote because you thought this would sound good in the commercial. That's not gonna do as well as an authentic artist piece, which is also what the agencies are looking for.
Sure.
So I would just say write as many songs as possible in your own vein and produce them as well as you possibly can, and take a chance and throw it out there and see what happens. Because a lot of the time, you'll be surprised at the opportunities that can come.
Yeah, that's great.
And then in the sense of a person looking to be doing kind of the things that we do, I would say just start taking as many opportunities as possible, meaning interning, meaning reaching out to sync houses in your area and seeing if you can't shadow somebody, or even a phone call with people just to get your name on their mind and show your interest. It's never going to hurt to ask to see if there's opportunities there, to see if they're looking for someone to help out. And you may have to sometimes do a lot for a little in order to get in the door. That's just sort of the way it goes in the music industry, at least.
Yeah, it's part of it.
So be willing to put in those extra hours.
Yeah.
Make those outside of work connections with the people you work with, because sometimes you'll see that people from other jobs will help you to find new jobs elsewhere.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah, and just network your head off.
That's good. Awesome. Well, man, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. I'm gonna let you get back to work. And I'm grateful for knowing you, and for you taking interest in my music and putting it out there, and for coming on and just sharing your expertise and all the stuff that and helping people in my audience to help build their career as well. So I'm grateful for that. So have a great day, man. We'll talk to you again soon.
All right. Take care.
Thank you guys so much for joining us as we talked with Wesley Cole today at Brewhouse Music. I hope you take the information that we talked about and find ways that you can apply this information to your career and to your life. So if you guys are interested in becoming a sync songwriter or sync artist, or you're wanting to write music specifically for commercials and that type of thing, then this information is vital for you, because he is living this out. He's the guy who's in charge of helping make sure that you get your music to where it needs to go. So be sure to take what we're talking about seriously and find ways to make this work for you. Remember, Edenbrook Productions is here to help. If you need consulting services via phone call, Skype, or FaceTime, be sure to let me know how we can help you begin to make a living in the music industry.